Hello, story lovers. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of passion, secrets, and choices that could change everything. Hearts will be broken, love will be tested, and every twist will leave you on the edge of your seat. Comment below where you're watching from, and if this story moves you, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who loves a powerful love story, and tap the bell so you never miss the next thrilling chapter. Ready? Let's begin. Part 1. The collision of two worlds. Sebastian Monroe adjusted his platinum watch, its weight heavy against his wrist, like the expectations that had shaped his 32 years. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, the city sprawled beneath him like a conquered kingdom. Tonight's charity gala would raise millions, but the real currency exchanged would be power, influence, and the carefully maintained illusion of his perfect life. His reflection stared back from the glass, sharp jawline and emerald eyes that had graced magazine covers. Yet behind the designer suit and practiced smile lay a hollow ache he'd spent 15 years trying to fill with acquisitions and achievements. "Mr. Monroe, the event staff has arrived," his assistant announced through the intercom. Across the city, Emma Hartwell smoothed her black uniform one final time. The service elevator's polished doors reflected a woman who had learned to become invisible, to move through worlds that would never accept her as anything more than hired help. At 29, her hands bore the calluses of honest work, her eyes holding depths that expensive educations couldn't lie. "Remember, this is Sebastian Monroe's estate." Susan, the event coordinator, addressed her team. "Every detail must be flawless. The guest list includes senators and celebrities." Emma's breath caught. Sebastian Monroe, the name that had haunted her dreams and shaped her nightmares for 15 years. Surely not the same Sebastian who once tutored her in mathematics behind the school library, who promised they'd change the world together before his father's ambitions tore them apart. The Monroe mansion rose like a crystal cathedral, its ballroom filled with 500 of society's elite. Sebastian moved through conversations about market fluctuations and political maneuvering, his smile a masterpiece of practiced emptiness. Beside him, Victoria Ashford, his wife of 3 years, played her role with perfection. Beautiful, connected, cold as winter marble. "Darling, you look magnificent tonight," Victoria murmured, adjusting his bow tie with possessive precision. Their marriage was a merger disguised as romance, two prominent families joining forces while their hearts remained locked in separate vaults. Emma wove through the crowd, silver tray balanced perfectly, offering champagne to guests who looked through her as if she were furniture. She had grown accustomed to invisibility until she saw him near the grand staircase. Time shattered. Sebastian stood in profile, his dark hair longer than she remembered, those unforgettable green eyes scanning the room with practiced boredom. 15 years had carved the soft boy into a commanding man, but those eyes held the same depth that had captivated her during stolen moments of first love. The champagne glasses slipped from her trembling hands, exploding against the marble floor in a symphony of breaking crystal. The entire ballroom fell silent, hundreds of pairs of eyes turning toward the commotion like predators sensing wounded prey. Sebastian's head snapped toward the sound, and their gazes collided across the crowd of designer gowns and expensive suits. Recognition hit him like a physical blow, stealing his breath and shattering the carefully constructed walls around his heart. Emma Hartwell, the girl who had owned his soul during the only innocent time of his life. "I'm so sorry," Emma whispered, kneeling among the broken glass, her hands shaking as she tried to collect the shards. "Please forgive me." Security moved toward her, but Sebastian stepped forward, his voice cutting through the murmurs of curious guests. "Stop, I'll handle this." Sebastian knelt beside Emma, his fingers brushing hers as they both reached for the same crystal shard. The touch sent electricity through both of them, awakening feelings they'd spent years trying to bury beneath duty and survival. "Emma," he whispered, and her name on his lips felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering in darkness. "Sebastian," she breathed, her voice barely audible above the resumed conversations around them. "I can't believe it's really you." He helped her to her feet, acutely aware of every curious glance from their audience. Victoria appeared at his side like a beautiful storm cloud, her possessive hand on his arm sending a clear message to anyone watching. "Darling, what's happening here?" Victoria's voice carried practiced sweetness that masked her calculating nature. "Just a small accident," Sebastian replied, though his eyes never left Emma's face. "Please ensure the staff has everything they need to continue serving." The crowd gradually returned to their conversations, but Sebastian could feel the weight of speculation building. In their world, even the smallest irregularity became tomorrow's scandal. Emma curtsied slightly, playing her role as the apologetic server. "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Monroe. I should return to my duties." But as she turned to leave, Sebastian caught her wrist gently. The touch was brief, appropriate for public viewing, yet it conveyed everything they couldn't say aloud. "Perhaps we should discuss improving service protocols," he said, his words carrying a double meaning that made Emma's heart race. "My office after the event concludes." Victoria's grip tightened on his arm, her intuition sensing undercurrents she couldn't identify. "Sebastian, surely that's unnecessary. These matters can be handled by the event company." "I prefer to address important matters personally," he replied, his tone brooking no argument. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of stolen glances and carefully maintained distance. Emma served champagne and hors d'oeuvres while Sebastian delivered his speech about education funding, but both were intensely aware of each other's presence across the crowded room. During his address, Sebastian spoke passionately about providing opportunities for underprivileged students, his words carrying deeper meaning as his eyes found Emma in the crowd. She remembered the boy who had tutored her, who had shared his textbooks and dreams of changing the world through technology. "Education should never be limited by economic circumstances," Sebastian declared to thunderous applause. "Every brilliant mind deserves the chance to flourish, regardless of their background." Emma's eyes filled with tears, remembering how he had once promised to help her attend university before their worlds were torn apart by his father's social climbing and her mother's pride. As midnight approached and guests began departing, Emma lingered in the empty ballroom, her heart pounding as she waited for the promised meeting. Sebastian bid farewell to the last guests, his public mask finally slipping as exhaustion and anticipation warred across his features. Victoria retired with a headache, her suspicious glances following Sebastian as he claimed important business. Calls required his attention. "Don't be too long, darling. We have brunch with my parents tomorrow morning." Of course, Sebastian agreed, though his mind was already racing toward the conversation that would either resurrect his buried dreams or destroy the careful life he had constructed. When he appeared in the ballroom doorway, still wearing his tailored tuxedo, but with his bow tie undone, Emma stood surrounded by the remnants of opulence. Rose petals scattered the floor, and the lingering scent of expensive perfume mixed with her nervous anticipation. 15 years, Sebastian said, his voice rough with emotion. 15 years, and you're here. I never stopped thinking about you, Emma whispered, the admission hanging between them like a confession. Sebastian stepped closer, and she could see the man he had become overlaid with the boy she had loved. My father said you never wanted to see me again, that your mother demanded we stay away from your family. Emma's face went pale. What, Sebastian? I waited for you. I waited until my mother got sick and we had to move. I left letters with your housekeeper, messages at your school. The truth hit Sebastian like a physical blow. His father's lies, his mother's compliance, the carefully constructed barrier that had kept them apart while he'd nursed a broken heart and built walls around. His soul. My father, Sebastian whispered, the pieces falling into place. He made sure we never found each other. Emma reached out tentatively, her fingers touching his face. All these years, I thought you had chosen your world over me. Never, Sebastian said fiercely, catching her hand and pressing it to his cheek. Never willingly. The distance between them dissolved as 15 years of pain and longing crashed together. Sebastian cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing the tears on her cheeks. Emma, Sebastian? Victoria's voice cut through the moment like a blade. She stood in the doorway, still in her evening gown, her eyes taking in the intimate scene with deadly precision. Sebastian's hands dropped from Emma's face as Victoria advanced into the ballroom, her heels clicking against the marble like gunshots. Her beauty had turned predatory, eyes calculating every angle of what she had witnessed. Working late, I see, Victoria said, her voice silk wrapped around steel. Though this doesn't look like business to me. Emma stepped back, her servant's instincts screaming danger. Mrs. Monroe, I was just Ashford, Victoria corrected coldly. Mrs. Ashford, and you were just leaving, weren't you? Victoria, this isn't what you think, Sebastian began, but his wife's laugh cut him off. Isn't it? A clandestine meeting with a servant who clearly knows you intimately. The way you looked at her tonight, the way she looked at you. Victoria circled them like a shark scenting blood. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Emma's face burned with humiliation. I should. Go. Yes, you should, Victoria agreed. Before this becomes even more complicated than it already is. But Sebastian caught Emma's arm. Don't. We need to finish this conversation. Finish what conversation? Victoria's voice rose dangerously. Sebastian, you're married. To me. Whatever. Juvenile infatuation. This is. It ends now. It's not infatuation, Sebastian said, his voice gaining strength. Emma and I have history. Real history. History? Victoria laughed bitterly. She's a servant, Sebastian. A nobody who serves drinks. To her betters. Whatever you think you shared, it's over. Emma flinched at the words, but Sebastian's jaw tightened with anger. Don't talk about her like that. Emma has more integrity in her little finger than most people in our circles have in their entire bodies. Our circles? Victoria stepped closer. To her husband. Sebastian, you're talking about throwing away everything we've built for a childhood crush. Your reputation, your business relationships, your family's legacy. What legacy? Sebastian demanded. A life built on lies? A marriage built on contracts instead of love? When did we become so empty, Victoria? A question hung in the air like a challenge. Victoria's composure cracked slightly, revealing the vulnerability beneath her armor. We became practical, she whispered. We became what our families needed us to be. What society expected us to be. But what about what we needed to be? Sebastian asked. Victoria straightened, her mask sliding back into place. I need to be your wife. And you need to? Remember what you owe to the people who made you who you are. She turned to Emma, her smile sharp as broken glass. Miss Hartwell, isn't it? I did some quick research while you two were having your touching reunion. Your mother works 3 jobs to pay for her medical treatments. Your younger brother is on a scholarship to community college. Such a fragile situation. So many ways it could all fall apart. Emma's blood turned to ice. What are you saying? I'm saying that powerful families have long memories and wide reach. The Ashfords and the Monroes control more than just money, dear. We control opportunities, recommendations, access to healthcare networks. Victoria's voice was honey over. Poison. It would be tragic if your family suddenly found themselves without the resources they depend on. You're threatening my family? Emma's voice shook with fury. I'm explaining reality, Victoria replied coolly. Sebastian has responsibilities, obligations, and you, my dear, are a complication that needs to be resolved. Sebastian stepped between them, his face dark with anger. Victoria, that's enough. Is it? Then choose, Sebastian. Right now. Your wife and your empire, or your servant and social suicide. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of impossible choices. Emma looked at Sebastian, seeing the war raging in his eyes, a man she loved trapped between duty and desire. Sebastian, Emma said quietly, she's right. Emma, no. She's right, Emma repeated, her voice stronger now. You have responsibilities. A life. I won't be the one to destroy that. She started toward the door, but Sebastian caught her hand. This isn't over. I won't let it be over. Emma looked back at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Maybe some loves are meant to be impossible. Maybe that's what makes them eternal. She pulled free from his grasp and walked away, leaving Sebastian standing in the ruins of the evening, Victoria watching him with triumph, and something that might have been pity. But as Emma reached the ballroom doors, she turned back one last time. Sebastian, there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you 15 years ago. Victoria's triumphant expression faltered as Emma's. Words hung in the air like an unexploded bomb. Asterisk. What are you talking about? Sebastian demanded, his heart hammering against his ribs. Emma's hands trembled as she faced the two most powerful people in her world. When your father forced us apart, I was pregnant. The words hit the ballroom. Like a physical explosion. Victoria's face went white, and Sebastian staggered backward as if struck. Pregnant? Sebastian whispered. I tried to tell you, Emma continued, tears streaming down her face. I called, I wrote letters, I even came to your house. But your father's security turned me away. He said you were engaged to Victoria and wanted nothing to do with me or my lies. Sebastian's world tilted on its axis. Where is the child? Where is my child? Emma's sob echoed off the crystal chandeliers. I lost the baby at 4 months. The stress, the heartbreak, my mother's shame. My body just couldn't hold on. The silence that followed was deafening. Sebastian's face cycled through shock, grief, and a rage so pure was frightening to witness. My father knew, Sebastian said, his voice dead. He knew, and he let me believe you had abandoned me. Victoria stepped forward, her calculating mind already working. Sebastian, this is exactly why we need to end this now. Look what dwelling on the past brings. Pain, destruction. But Sebastian rounded on his wife, his eyes blazing. You knew. The accusation hung in the air like an executioner's blade. What? Victoria's composure cracked. You knew about Emma, about what happened. That's why you're so desperate to keep us apart. What did my father tell you? Victoria's face cycled through denial, fear, and finally, defiance. He told me about the girl who tried to trap you with a pregnancy claim. He said she was dangerous, manipulative, that she would try to destroy everything we'd built if she ever resurfaced. Trap me? Sebastian's voice was deadly quiet. I loved her. I would have married her in a heartbeat. Exactly. Victoria exploded and thrown away everything. Your education, your family's respect, your future. I saved you from that mistake. Emma watched the marriage implode in real time, seeing the cracks that had always existed finally tear the facade apart. Saved me? Sebastian laughed bitterly. You helped steal 15 years of my life. 15 years I could have been with the woman I actually loved instead of trapped in this empty shell of a marriage. Victoria's mask finally shattered completely. Empty? Sebastian, I have given you everything. My body, my connections, my family's support. I made you into the man you are today. You made me into a ghost, Sebastian replied. A hollow puppet playing a role in someone else's vision of success. He turned to Emma, his eyes desperate. Emma, I'm so sorry. For the baby, for the pain, for everything you endured alone. I know, Emma whispered. I know you would have been there if you could. Victoria watched their connection with growing desperation. Sebastian, think about what you're doing. Your board of directors, your investors, the media. They'll destroy you if you throw away your marriage for a scandal. Let them, Sebastian said simply. I've been dead inside for 15 years. Maybe it's time to start living again. But Victoria wasn't finished. Her voice turned venomous. And what about Emma's family? Did you think I was bluffing about my reach? One phone call, Sebastian. One call and her mother loses access to her cancer treatment program. Her brother loses his scholarship. Her entire world crumbles. Emma stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. Do it. Call whoever you want. My family has survived worse than you. Have they? Victoria smiled coldly. Because I've already made the call. The blood drained from Emma's face. What? While you two were having your touching reunion, I contacted some friends. Your mother's treatment program received notification an hour ago that her case is being reviewed for irregularities. Your brother's scholarship is under investigation for potential fraud. Funny how quickly these things can happen when the right people are motivated. Sebastian lunged forward, fury radiating from every line of his body. You vicious, calculating, practical, Victoria finished. Unlike you, I understand what's at stake. This little fantasy ends now, or Emma's family pays the price for your selfishness. Emma looked between them, seeing the trap closing around everyone she loved. Sebastian's face was a mask of anguish and rage, torn between his heart and the weapon. Victoria held over Emma's family. There's a third option, Emma said quietly. Both Sebastian and Victoria turned to her. I disappear. Tonight. I take my family and we leave the city, start over somewhere else. Sebastian stays married, keeps his empire, and my family gets to keep their lives. Emma, no, Sebastian protested. I won't lose you again. You have to. Emma replied, her voice breaking. Because if you don't, you'll destroy everything you've built, and my family will pay the price. And I can't live with that blood on my hands. She looked at Victoria with something approaching respect. You win. You get to keep your husband and your perfect life. But know that you're keeping a man who will never love you the way he loves me. Victoria's triumph felt hollow as she watched Emma walk toward the door. But before I go, Emma turned. Back one final time. You should know something else, Victoria. Something your investigators missed. What are you talking about? Victoria demanded, but Emma was looking at Sebastian now, her eyes soft with a love that had survived 15 years of separation. The charity tonight, Sebastian. The education foundation you've built. Do you know who provided the original research that convinced you to focus on underprivileged students? Sebastian frowned, confusion replacing anger. The Monroe Foundation's research department. Emma shook her head. I've been feeding information to your foundation for 3 years. Anonymous reports about which schools need help, which students show promise, which programs actually work. Every major decision you've made was based on research I provided. The revelation hit Sebastian like a physical blow. You've been helping me? Your housekeeper, Mrs. Patterson, she never forgot me. When I started working in social services, she helped me find ways to support your work without you knowing. I couldn't be with you, but I could help you change the world like we always dreamed. Victoria's face contorted with rage. You've been manipulating my husband's business decisions? That's corporate espionage. That's love, Emma replied simply. The kind that asks for nothing and gives everything. Sebastian stepped toward Emma, understanding flooding his features. The Patterson Home for Children. The scholarship program. At Jefferson High, the technology grants for rural schools. That was all you. We changed the world, Sebastian. Just like we promised we would. And now you can keep changing it without me. But Sebastian was already moving, pulling out his phone. David, I need you to call an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. Yes, I know it's 2 a.m, and call my lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. Victoria grabbed his arm. Sebastian, you'll lose everything. Your company, your reputation. I'll keep what matters, Sebastian replied, his voice steady for the first time in years. My soul, he turned to Emma. And you, if you'll have a man who's spent 15 years learning how to live again. Emma's tears flowed freely now. Sebastian, my family, will be protected. I'm transferring my personal assets to a trust that ensures your mother's treatment and your brother's education. Victoria can have the company, the house, the social connections. I never wanted any of it without you. Victoria stared at him in disbelief. You're throwing away billions of dollars for her? I'm choosing love over empty success. I'm choosing life over a beautiful prison. He took Emma's hands in his. We lost 15 years, but we don't have to lose the rest of our lives. Will you take a chance on us again? Emma looked into the eyes that had haunted her dreams, seeing not the powerful businessman, but the boy who had tutored her in mathematics and promised they would change the world together. What about your empire? We'll build a new one, Sebastian said. One based on love instead of duty, on truth instead of appearances. Victoria watched her carefully constructed world crumble. You'll regret this, both of you. When the money runs out, when society shuns you, when the novelty wears off, you'll realize what you've thrown away. Maybe, Sebastian acknowledged, but I'd rather live one day in truth than another year in a beautiful lie. He turned back to Emma, his voice soft with wonder. We lost our first child, but maybe we can find our way to a second chance. At everything. Emma stepped into his arms, and 15 years of separation melted away. I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day. Then that's all we need, Sebastian whispered against her hair. Love and a second chance. Victoria gathered what remained of her dignity and walked toward the ballroom doors. When this fantasy falls apart, don't come crawling back to me. I won't, Sebastian called after her, because it won't. As Victoria's footsteps faded, Sebastian and Emma stood alone in the ballroom where their worlds had collided once again. The morning sun was beginning to stream through the crystal windows, painting everything in gold. Are you sure about this? Emma asked. You're giving up everything you've built. I'm not giving up anything, Sebastian replied, cupping her face in his hands. I'm finally choosing what matters. I'm choosing us. He kissed her then, a kiss that tasted of forgiveness and new beginnings, of lost time and found love. When they finally broke apart, Emma smiled through her tears. So what do we do now? Sebastian looked around the opulent ballroom, then back at the woman he'd never stopped loving. Now we start over. We build something real. We change the world, just like we promised we would when we were 17. Together, together. As the sun rose over the city, casting long shadows across the ballroom floor, Sebastian Monroe and Emma Hartwell walked hand in hand toward the door, leaving behind the ruins of a perfect life to build something infinitely more valuable. A life based on love. The end.